Hey guys, new video here. Downscaling expensive build. So I got a lot of questions on the stream. Can I use this instead of that? What's a replacement for this? I wish I could play this build, but I don't have 200 exalts. I wish I could do this, but I don't know how to swap this. So I'll just talk about how to downscale like an expensive build, or to downscale really like any build that you find on the forums or a YouTube video, because you're never really gonna have the exact gear that someone else has when you're copying their build, and so sometimes a new player can be like kind of confusing to wrap your head around. How do I even play this build if I want to swap something out? So I'll try to talk about Storm Call, which is a really nice build. Good clear, good single target, and I'll use since I've been playing it so much on stream and stuff, I'll use this as an example to talk about how to scale things down. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my gear from the I've gotten a couple level hundreds of these already this league, and I'll take the current gear that I'm using on the kind of like the fatty Storm Call, and I'll go over it real quick again and show you why I'm using it, and talk about the build overall, and then show you kind of a cost of the current gear that I was first using it, where people are surprised, in the other YouTube videos they're like, oh man, it's so much. So first I'm going to go over the gold. Now this item is actually a 1 alchemy item, but the enchant is what makes it expensive. So there's a lot of uniques out there that are actually super cheap, but once you add a really expensive enchant on it, it gains multiple exalts. Now this one, I'm sure at the time of this recording, this is the only one on the market, because I was thinking of ways to make the map more fun. So I was like, let me just buy a gold. So I bought it for 3 exalts, but I've gotten whispers for it after I started using it for 10 exalts, 12 exalts, because it is the only one, right? So this is probably about 10 exalts, and then this is used in conjunction with the Solstice Virgil. Now Solstice Virgil is probably 90C as a base item, but this has probably the only corruption, well, depending on the time of day, it's probably has the only corruption of +1 curse, and then of course +1 curse wrath, increased aura effect. Doesn't really matter because you don't really use wrath unless you use an owls, which I also have right here. But the Solstice Virgil, this one is probably, I could probably sell for 40 or 50 exalts right now, okay? And then the owls, obviously a 20 exalt item, and if you put this in, it's kind of weird how this has gone down in price, 30 exalts in a week, but this is also really nice if you want to use wrath, and if you're not going to use the goal, I wouldn't actually use Solstice Virgil, so I would use an owls and a -9% lightning resist helmet, right? So the pretty expensive items here already. Let's talk about the chest. So this one I was lucky enough to whoop on stream for 14 exalts, and this was the very first one to hit the market. Right now I've gotten offers of 80-90 exalts. I could probably sell for around at least 100 because of that double corruption, right? So a pretty expensive item there. The opal rings actually aren't anything too special. These are maybe a couple exalts, maybe, right? Probably not though. It's got a little bit of resist, a crafted damage roll on each, and they are opal bases, which will hike up the price a little bit just because they are elemental damage implicits, right? And of course Headhunter, everyone knows this item. It's wow, another build of Headhunter, right? Right now it's 55, 56 exalts, and then this one right here, these are Shadows and Dust, which are very cheap item on its own, 1 alchemy, 1 C, but what's going to happen is that when you corrupt it, if you get a level 11, level 12, even level 10 ally weakness on hit, they'll probably gain 10 exalts at least. So right now probably a 12 exalt item here. These boots are pretty good. They have big life, they have increased max life roll, they have a little bit of resist on them, and then 41% movement speed most of the time, which makes it pretty damn nice. 41% movement speed boots with a leech enchant on it, which does add a little bit of value because nobody really wants to run Uber Lab for the most part, unless they have a lab farmer. So these, maybe 20 exalts, I don't really know. I forgot how much I bought these for, but they're pretty nice. And then, so as you can see, this is the current top end gear, right? So you're thinking, okay, how can I scale this down? And really, when you think of a build, you have to think of a couple things, right? A few things. Number one is what is the main output of the build? Does my skill kill both all of the white monsters, the blue monsters, yellow monsters, and the bosses, right? That somewhere in the map. And as long as like that's okay, you have that covered, right? With your usually with support gems, you don't need to worry actually too much about increased modifiers on gear. And that is because like increased modifiers on gear, like types of these little pieces of damage, you know, increased damage crafted, I mean increased damage like lightning damage, fire damage, cold damage, opal ring bases, having you know, having the biggest implicit wands, having the highest crit implicit 50% dagers. Like these little increases aren't going to be as crazy as adding another support gem if you're gonna get an extra link, or adding like switching from, let's say, an ink AoE to a conk effect. So for example, on Stormcall, if I was using ink AoE to clear the map, what would my dog's like biting her squeaky toy. If I was gonna do a map with ink AoE and your damage was like you were feeling kind of bad, all you could do is you could swap out a conk effect. You put a conk effect into your ink AoE slot, and now you have like 50 something percent more damage, which will make up, I guarantee you, for any kind of increases that you could get on, say, like little pieces of rings, like the dagers, the jewels, stuff like that. It is such a big thing just to swap out a gem that might give you more DPS instead of going for the quality of life things like ink AoE. And this is applicable to other builds too. The first place you should always look to get more damage if your gear is bad is in your links, okay? Not in the actual rare pieces or unique pieces themselves, although there are some cases where things will give you a huge boost, but we're talking about downscaling here, okay? So another thing you have to notice that's very important to keep in mind is that whether you're running a T1 map, a T16 map, the white monsters, the blue monsters, and yellow monsters, for the most part, unless they are bestiary monsters or like, you know, some beyond monsters spawning, they don't have any HP. They really don't. You don't need that much DPS. So a common question is like, how much DPS do I need to do Shaper? How much DPS do I need to clear a red map, right? And really, unless you're playing like the worst build ever, or like you're playing a build that can't or doesn't have any AoE, so you're actually getting hit by the monsters, you don't need to worry about the damage that much. And what I mean by that is, so I'll actually show you a map with like maybe some bad gear in a little bit, but you are gonna clear just fine once your character's all put together, okay? And then the second thing is like once your skill is sound, right, in terms of the actual linkages and like the output of the damage, that you can actually cast that skill multiple times, you know, sometimes like you have weird mana issues. Once that's set, you need to think about, how is my character going to move around, right? What do I need to do to make sure that my character can just move around in my desired way? So for me, what I think about is like, as long as I have like my 5-link or my 6-link character set up, the Sphere whispering me thinking that I'm selling my gear because I put it into the tabs to show up. Okay, so I'm actually not though. Okay, so what's gonna happen is I think, okay, I want to move around. Now, why do I want to move around? Because it feels better. It's more fun to play. You know, you can contour around corners, you don't run into anything, desync is less. A lot of reasons to choose moving around, but let's say you want to do shield charge, you already want to do whirling blade. So in those cases, obviously for shield charge, you have to have a shield, right? And then for running around, you don't need to have a shield. You just need to have probably, you might want to think about things like you know, high movement boots, maybe a Grace Watcher's Eye, which is very cheap, and then maybe you want to think of a Queen of Forest, which is 50% movement speed. So then after you have, so once again, first off is you get your skill to be sound with the links. The second one is you choose, how do I want to move around? Is that whirling blades, shield charge, or running, or hell, I mean, you can even use leap slam, or I guess your poet's pen, you could do like lightning warp or something. So once you think about this, you think about, are there any like mandatory items for that, right? And in this game, there are very few builds that require like too many mandatory items. Okay, for example, this build right here requires a soul catcher. It requires at least one roll of a bloodstained fossil, and then you need to get your evasion somehow around 45,000. But that doesn't require unique, so you can just use flash for that. So and that's it, right? I think a good build shouldn't lock you into too many uniques, and if it does, if it says like recommended, you should be able to swap them out easily. I'll show you exactly what I mean in a little bit. So I've decided to use to run around. So I wanted the fast movement speed boots, right, at least 30%. I wanted the Queen of Forest, and then I'll use my Jade Flask and things like that. Pathfinder obviously helps with that to get 45,000 evasion, right? Let's say I want to do shield charge on this build. Well, I very much could. I could drop a bloodstained weapon here. I could put on an Esh's Mirror, then I have massive damages, and I could start shield charging, right? And then so it's not really necessary to have like more than one dagger, but like obviously 5 stacks of Stormcall is better. So That's another thing to think about. If I want to go whirling blades, I'm already dual wielding these, so I could, well, I don't need to dual wield, but like I'm already using the dagger, so I can whirling blades and stuff like that, right? So yeah, so that works as well. So that is basically that is like the two things you have to think about, and a third and I guess final thing that everyone should know, but maybe I need to mention it, is I need to cap my resist, right? Does the gear that I am able to get, does it cap me at 75%? Because when you think about a build, every build needs to have max resist. Let's say you have 75 max resist, and you, on one element you have 50, right? That doesn't seem like much. Oh, I'm only like 25 under cap, right? I have 50 resist. You're actually taking 25%, or I'm sorry, you're taking 100% more damage if you have 50 resist rather than 75 from that element. And the reason for that is because, you know, you're taking 25. Let's say a monster hits you for 100, you take 25 before. Now you actually take 50, so it's double the damage. So for things like volatiles, lightning, mirage, the little explodey, cold burst thingies, like things like this will like just straight up one shot you, and that's why minus max res on maps is so dangerous. Okay, so that's a little side note. So once again, to recap, because I feel like this needs to be said again, the first is just to decide on your skills and your links and make sure those are sound. Second is decide how you want to move around the map. Okay, how are you going to move your character? And then third is going to be cap your resist. That's all there is to any build. And then in terms of downscaling, so I've shown you what gear I'm using now. Now I'm going to go through the motions of explaining what I would swap out as a budget, and then maybe you can follow my logic, okay? So first of all, I'm going to pull up this browser here, and now look at this ring. This ring is a 1C ring, right? So in my, for my opal ring, right, I had to cap my resist. That was most important to me. I had to have a life roll. That was second most important to me. And then the third thing was, like, if I could get some damage on it, why not? And so for me, I got the opal ring with the 25% implicit on the base. And once again, increases to damage aren't like really that great in this game. They're okay if you add them all up. But like that's why things like, you know, like 40% righteous fire damage on a helmet is like kind of like whatever, right? Like these 40% damage helmets are trash, because you have things like, you know, volatile dead, tornado shot, that actually adds like kind of a more multiplier to the builds, right? So but that's a discussion for another day. That's helmet balance. But what I'm saying is, like, you don't actually need this increased damage roll on the opal ring. So what are you going to search for? You're just going to search for a total res roll on PoE trade. Maybe try like 80 or something, and then you're going to do a life roll, maybe like 50 to start out with, right? I mean, I have 50 here. Well, I guess the strength gives me a little bit more, but whatever. So you search, and then boom, look at this ring. It's literally 1C. It's literally 1C. It's been up for 2 days ago. It's a diamond ring. It'll give you a little bit of crit as well. Okay, so that's totally fine. And then as for, those are like the ring choices, right? You can like follow my logic, and then sometimes a thing to look for is open prefix suffix. So now with the crafting benches, like so many different things you craft on jewelry, you might want to look for something that has an open, so this one right here has an open suffix because life is a prefix. So because you have an open suffix, you can craft like some cool stuff. You can craft like let's say you have found a ring that had like this natural life roll, okay, not crafted. Then you can craft like power charge minimum, frenzy charge minimum. You craft you know, like crit and crit multi if you've shattered recently. Look, there's increased flat damage. There's so many things you could craft that would make this just as good as the opal ring, well, almost just as good as the opal ring that I am using right now, if not better, right? And that goes for the next one that I'm using too. If you look right here, right, it's just like a high life. I had the resist I wanted, I had the open suffix, and then I have a small increased lightning damage roll of 17%, right? That thing goes all the way up to, I don't know, like 30 or something. So it's really like not that special, right? So that's the mindset of scaling down the rings, right? Cap your resist, get some life, and then and only then, if you have a little bit extra monies, you can think about adding a tiny bit of damage, but do not sacrifice the previously mentioned things. Okay. Let's look at the boots. Okay, look at these boots right here. Okay, let me go over mine first. So on these boots, right, I have life, I have some resist that I need, and then of course I have you know, up the minimum of like 30% move speed. I have and I also have enchant. Well, let's look at these boots right here. Now, obviously not enchanted, but the enchant's not that important. It's just a little bit of quality of life at the beginning of the map. These have 30% move speed. They have 79 life, and then one little resist. You know, and also on these, there's two open slots right here, right? So I mean, These boots for 1C, why not? You could take these, you could put them on, and sure, you're 11% slower. You don't have like the leech enchant, but like you can go enchant those yourself in Cruel Lab, right? That's what Cruel Lab is, where I get my current enchant on my boots that you see right here, and yeah, you can go to town on these boots, totally fine, right? 1C, wow, look at that, so cheap. Okay, next, let's take a look at the belt. So the belt is a Headhunter belt, right? Now everyone's like, oh my god, Headhunter belt. You know, obviously it is very powerful if you got a haste and movement speed and like, you know, deadly mods and stuff like that. But if you were to take this out, what are you actually losing besides, if like, let's say there weren't that many rares this league because there's no beyond, right? Well, you're losing obviously the strength and the dex, which can help with gem requirements, and of course you're losing a little bit of life. Well, actually a lot of life, 50 plus 40 for 90 life, and 30% increased damage against the rares, right? Well, are those, you have to think, are those necessary for my build? Do they affect the functionality or the utility of my build? And really it doesn't, right? You can very well use the Biscos. What am I using? Well, look at this belt right here. This is a 12C belt. I just chose like a random cool belt that adds some kind of like cool mechanic to the build, right? And I just like thought, oh, the wretch is kind of cool. So you're getting like 15% movement speed, right? That kind of makes up for the loss on the boots, and then some. You have a little bit of fast effect duration, so your fast lasts longer. You have a little bit extra leeway to spam your Stormclaw before you need to hit your Soul Catcher again. Has one decent resist. It has a big life roll, and I mean, this like leech applies to enemies. It's Chow's damage. Who cares about that, right? And then this is a 30% reduced flash charges gain, but it's a negative effect. But when you think about it, Pathfinder has that node that gives you 10% penetration and like basically a free poacher's mark if they've been like affected by ailment or something. So it more than makes up for this. So look at this, 12C. You could definitely use this on it, and then you feel baseline the speed would be pretty damn good. Okay, let's take a look at the gloves. Gloves are Shadows and Dust. The only thing that I don't have like these gloves once again is only expensive because of the implicit. Well, Shadows and Dust Rampage is so strong, right? Rampage is kind of like a utility thing and a damage thing. Utility because it gives you like speed and also like stun spears and like corpse explosions and like animated weapons and all this kind of cool stuff. Well, what if you just drop the LE weakness, right? And that's exactly what you can do. Look at this, 1C for this, right? I mean, that implicit is complete garbage, and the rolls are pretty low, but it's 1C to buy Shadows and Dust, and then Rampage will still give you that damage and that movement speed, right? So, yeah. So if you look at this, you're like, you know what? This is for 1C, what a steal, right? Compared to like 11 exalts here. So that's how we're going to scale down the gloves. We're going to take out the thing that makes it super duper expensive, and we essentially have the same gloves. And you have to think about the reasoning why you choose an item. For me, it was Rampage. It wasn't really for the LE weakness on hit, right? Although I did have a +1 curse, so it like works out, so I can use the temp chains as well. So that's scaling down there. Let's talk about actually the helmet. Okay, so I was using a goal with the Stormcall enchants of 10 exalts, whatever. But you could, and if you look at the crafted ones with like a hollow fossil and negative 9% lightning res, you're looking at a few exalts there. Well, what if you just use something like this? Look at this. This has so the important thing about Stormclaw is like you have to get the duration down, right? The soul gain duration is 0 because that's the core build. Well, look at this thing. This is 100C, and it has a life roll. It has a little bit of a global crit chance, and you don't usually reach low life unless your build is bad. So that doesn't really apply too much. And really, you just wanted the helmet enchant, right? So I just searched for 30% reduced Stormclaw duration. And there was a bunch that came up. The cheapest one was like 50C. This one was 100C. It's a well-known unique item. I'm just gonna take this one, right? 100C. And that takes the place of the goal or the self-craft ones. If you could also craft your own helm, but that's a little bit more advanced. I don't want to talk about this in this video. This is just kind of scaling down an expensive build and seeing like what your options are and like why you can switch to that, because the goal is just like little mini shrines, which sometimes you forget to pick up. If you have domination on your maps, then it's pretty cool because you can go a little bit faster, get some cool effects. But if you don't have that on your maps and you're like a noob and you're just like running normal maps, then it doesn't even matter. So you can just use this for 100C. Look at that. Okay. Let's think about the amulet. Wow, my amulet, look at this amulet. So this amulet is an impresence, and this is actually what I was using for the, most of my first level 100. It's got a life roll, it's got a resist roll. That damage is global, so it actually adds to the to spells and attacks. And then of course you get a free conductivity, right? And that's some pretty big damage right there, because that's I think it's like 40 something minus resist for the normie mobs, right? Not the bosses. Bosses are 80% reduced effectiveness of curses, and then the impresence aura is like a mini enfeebled temp chains. Now, why is it important to know about this amulet? Because the amulet slot, a lot of people think it's mandatory because it's like some big effects going on here, right? The Solstice Virgil extends the length of all buffs on you and stuff like that, and it gives you a free temp chains. Well, once again, you have to think up to the base skill. Like, do you need that temp chains to kill enemies? No, right? It doesn't add any damage. It's more of a defensive. And then also the Solstice Virgil, I mean, 25% increased damage. Like I said before, increased damage modifiers aren't that important because the monsters usually don't have that much life anyways. And then a small life roll, well, medium life roll, and then the mana regen doesn't really matter. So you have to think, okay, so now that I know that this doesn't really matter, you can really use anything else that gives you that gives you some cool effect that you'd enjoy. So I like in presence, but you can also use Choir of the Storms, right? It's a crit build, so you can go crit and a little bit of added single target with that lightning bolt. You can go what else can you go? You can go even Karui charge for more movement speed. You can go a regular Solstice Virgil if you really want the extension of the buffs for 80-90 C, right? There's like so many options there, and I just chose the cheapest one. Look at this. This is a 3C, literally 3C that you could get. Okay, and then now let's go to the chest. So my chest is very expensive, right? But because if you want to save money on the bloodstained fossils, you can just use a staff. So for this chest, I'm just gonna go with a no link, right? Like a 2-socket no link, 2C. Look at that, so cheap, right? Because once again, your second priority was how am I gonna move around? Well, as long as I have my Queen of the Forest, 45,000 evasion, you know, and my flask, I'm just gonna zoom around, and it doesn't really matter what's on the Queen of the Forest, so I'll just buy this one for 2C. Okay, now for the tricky part. Weapons. So bloodstained is a huge cost right now. I think bloodstained are at least 3 exalts, right? So like to craft even like the worst possible things with no other fossils, you're looking at like 3 exalts plus 3 exalts, so 6 exalts. But what if you wanted to look for something that was a little bit easier, that would take away costs from your other items? So this is a crit build, so you might want some crit. Okay, so you might think about an Eclipse staff, or you know, maybe you can find some cheaper daggers as well. But look at this thing right here. So I'm gonna search for a staff, and I know I wanted a little bit of crit. I know I needed the reduced soul cost of whale skills, the bloodstained fossils, and then of course a 6-link is always nice for a build. So this is like the cheapest staff that I could find. You could actually craft this yourself, but I'm not gonna talk about that because crafting fossils is another video. So look at this. There is in this one alone, if I don't divine anything, it's 100 plus 87, so 187% increased chance for spells, and added damage craft there, and then basically 2 bloodstained fossils. So the cost of this staff is the exact same as 2 bloodstained fossils, which is the bare minimum, and you get all these other things, and you get a 6-link all together. So that's crazy value, right? So that's 7 exalts here versus what I would have spent on the daggers, which will, at the time of this recording, the daggers might be, I don't know, 6 to 10 exalts, something like that, maybe a little bit more, depending on the time of day. So you've just like you just saved, you just spent, like, I guess with this staff, like 30% of the cost, right, to get something that might even be you know, might even be better. Okay, if you craft your own, you can actually make a better staff than this. Get a little bit lucky. So that's like talking about downscaling, and then you might be like, oh, okay, yeah, easy to buy these items, right? Like blah blah blah. Like you can just like find these, and like maybe they're not selling, or maybe like, you know, it doesn't work to. Oh well, that's good to know, because I actually bought every single one of them. So this is the full Pepe God tab. I'm gonna mouse over all of them real quick so you can see that they're the exact items that are mentioned in the screenshots. So like complete Pepe God compared to like the good gear, right? And actually one of these rings I didn't I forgot to screenshot it, so I had to screenshot the trade. See, this was the other ring that didn't show before was 7C. Okay, 7C. and so I just wanted to show that all these things were actually purchased for the price that were listed in the screenshot. It wasn't like some kind of like, you know, I found the item like offline or something like that, right? These are actually items that I bought. So let's put on the items, and I do have from this I have a free conductivity curse that I don't think I put on, right? Let me put on these rings here. And we're gonna go do a map with our shitty gear, okay? A month into the league. Okay, so hold on. Let me see if I have a conductivity. 1 second here. Conductivity and then blasphemy. Let's see. Blasphemy. Oh wait, where's my blasphemy? Where'd it go? It's gone. Okay, let me go to Nani and buy a level 1 blasphemy real quick. Jeez, man. And then I'm gonna do a map to kind of show you guys. Oh, I don't have the. Wait. I don't have the thing. I don't have the quest for this guy. Wait, what? What the hell? I don't have it. Okay, you know what? We're going live. We're not gonna use the blasphemy. Okay, no curses, so a lot less damage, but it's fine, dude. It's actually fine. Okay, so I'm gonna show a map with the gear that I just talked about, downscaled. Let's put some domination on here. Why not? Even though it doesn't do much, I'm gonna cast my auras here. Okay, got these two. Got this guy in. And here we go. Okay, so it plays exactly the same. Well, maybe not exactly the same, right? Let me go here. Okay, and we are off to the races. So this is a T16 map, by the way, unidentified T16 asteroid, just like I've been doing on the other guy. And this is me running around. I'm super fast. Look at this. Wow, I don't have a headhunter. Oh, I'm sustaining. And look at this. Right. So I mean, as you can see, no problems with dealing with any of the monsters. And once again, I'm missing my blasphemy, which is free, essentially, right? For this build, so that'd be a lot more damage there. And then let me go show. Where's the boss though? Where's that guy? All right, there's some ghosted guys. And yeah, I'm running around. The speed is not bad, right? Look at this. Obviously, headhunter. If you get lucky, you'll get a little bit faster. Fusing. Where's this guy? And he's dead, and the boss is dead. Okay, so that well, this 50 monster remain. I didn't really clear this too well. Oops, that's just too bad, right? Here we go, and I'm gonna count that as regular full clear. Okay, so that's the map there. As you can see, it functions on a T16 just the same way that the other one does, and so that should like maybe help you get a little bit into the feel of like how can I swap things out, like what can I drop, and I know it's kind of weird because this is just like one build, but hopefully you can take some of the things that I showed in this video and apply it to any other builds, right? And I hope you enjoy. If you have any questions, you can ask in the comments. Okay, bye everyone. Bye. Thank you. Bye.